Hey nerds, happy Halloween and welcome to our third and final episode of our Halloween countdown. In this episode we are talking all about ghosts and demons, things that go bump in the night. We were hoping to end up doing 4 episodes for our Halloween countdown, but due to time constraints we weren't able to manage to do that. However, this episode is a long one. We got into some good detail and went over some good survival tactics and some movies to add to your watch list for this Halloween night. So before you go trick-or-treating, make sure you pop this on and get right into the mood for this haunted holiday. So Carrie, when you're ready, for the last time for this Halloween countdown, play the music. Alright, so this week we'll be kind of going away from the corporeal zombies and slasher kind of horror genres to the ghost and demon kind of.
Which is always kind of like the far more scarier for me, I guess.
Yeah?
You know, well, at least you have a moderate chance of fighting Mike Myers.
Yeah, like the other movies, you kind of have something you can at least shoot at.
If you were to put a wall between yourself and... I'm going to say Jason, even though he's just going to leave a Jason-sized cutout in the wall on his way to get you. At least you can have a physical barrier. But when it comes to like ghosts and demons, it's never really... You know, they tend to inhabit you as a person as opposed to just like be a physical medium in front of you.
Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people actually find the ghost and demon kind of genre probably one of the scarier ones. Just because it's also like a lot of the movies, you don't see what's necessarily there. It's your imagination running wild. Like, you don't see the demon.
Yeah.
You see sometimes, like, the possessed person kind of slowly rotting away.
Well, that, I mean, even us, just, I mean, like, outside of a movie environment, like, you know that Jason isn't going to come ripping through the window. But, I mean, we've all, at some point in time, had some weird thing where you see something out of the corner of your eye that you're 100% sure is there, or you're hearing things or seeing things in the shadows that aren't there. I mean, it's... Ghosts and demons probably hit far closer to home than somebody that's like, well, I'm afraid of Freddy Krueger, but you know, Freddy Krueger is not real.
Yeah.
But that ghostly figure in the dark corner over there, that's definitely probably a real thing that's going to get you when I sleep tonight. Yeah. So I think like, I know for me, like the spooky demon ghost stories tend to hit a little bit harder than like a schlockfest slasher kind of deal.
Mm-hmm. And kind of a recurring theme you see in the kind of demonic possession movies or ghost movies is you always see the kind of protagonist being woken up in the middle of the night and looks at the alarm clock. And it's always 3:03 in the morning. And it seems to be the time where I always have to get up to go take a pee.
Yeah, well, that's you're haunted by your bladder.
Yeah. But you wake up and you see that time, and there is some sort of kind of lore to the whole 3:03 time.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, that and you ever watch like a lot of spooky like ghost and demon movies? There's this aspect of like torture for about the first third of the movie that you don't quite get from slasher films. Like, yeah, you find the body or boogity 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 jump scare, it's fine. If you ever watch like a story where there's a haunting in the house, there's always like this slow torture that slowly kicks off that just breaks the person down mentally. Mm-hmm. It's a lot of weird. It just kind of makes my skin crawl.
Yeah. All right, so let's toss out a couple of survival tips for if you ever found yourself dealing with a ghost or a demon. Not that there's like really a whole lot you can do, but first one I have here is right out of pretty much Supernatural, is make a salt circle and stay in it.
Yeah, man, don't break the circle. I think that's true in a lot of movies. Just if you see the circle, if you're outside of the circle, don't break the circle because it's keeping something in.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you're inside the circle, don't keep your arms and legs inside the ride at all times.
Yeah. If you find yourself with a demon, bring a cross and some holy water.
I mean, that typically seems to work. It's weird that all the demons are just allergic to a small case tea and some wetness.
Yeah, they all abide by Christian rules, pretty much.
Yeah, that's how you know it's legit.
Yeah. Man, I can't explain my headspace from when I came up with this one, but make friends with an old priest and a young priest. I know it's from The Exorcist, but who's going around making friends with an old priest right now?
Well, not if you're in Pennsylvania, that's for sure.
And if your house has cold spots, weird scratching at night, etc., move.
Yeah, that's probably like my number one tip. Like, Eddie Murphy does a bit, and it's either in Delirious or Raw, where he's kind of referencing the Amityville horror. And really, if you're sitting at home alone on your couch and you're just watching TV, and there's this deep growl of "Get out," you just pack your bags and get out. Like, there's just no. Why are you going to stay? Like, what do you have to prove against the supernatural?
Yeah, exactly. All right, so that's all my survival tips.
Well, mine is always don't look under the bed.
Fair enough.
You never find anything under the bed. There's never anything under there. It's always behind you when you get back out. It's just that's how it always is. Don't open closets when there's something scratching and knocking at a closet door. Leave it in there. Yeah. If it doesn't have the wherewithal to turn a latch, why bother with it? Like, it seems like you're kind of letting the Tasmanian devil out of the cage when you just opening up doors when there's a strange knock where there shouldn't be.
Yeah, especially if you don't have like any cats or anything that might have got in there.
Yeah, I have no pets, but all of a sudden there's a cat scratching behind my closet door. I'm going to go see what it is. No, you're going to pack your bags with whatever's out in the room, just grab some dirty laundry, no one's going to judge, and get out. And I guess my last one is... don't buy weird tchotchkes in weird tchotchke shops that suddenly disappear when you turn your back.
Fair enough.
This goes for any sort of weird lamps, monkey's paws, none of that stuff. They're cursed little items. Weird dolls from the 18th century. They don't belong in your home, not nowadays. What are they doing there? Get rid of it. So avoid like weird little knickknacks and stuff.
Wooden boxes, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, don't buy wooden boxes. Make a wooden box. Go to Home Depot. $50, you can make a gorgeous wooden box.
All right,
you
no antiquing.
Don't bother with that kind of stuff.
All right, fair enough. All right, so just a couple of movies to add to your watch list for Halloween night.
Mm-hmm.
My first one that I'm going to kick this off with is the movie As Above, So Below.
Okay.
Came out 2014. It's not a super well-known movie. Didn't necessarily get great reviews.
Is that the one where the movie poster is an upside-down Eiffel Tower with a field of skulls blossoming out of it?
You have a very good memory, sir.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, so that's that exact one. I remember seeing it and then seeing it disappear and not hearing anything from it until a friend of mine told me to go check it out.
Mm-hmm.
Before I did, I checked the reviews. It did not too bad with IMDb stars, but Rotten Tomatoes and all that, not so well. So, after watching it, it was actually not too bad. Like, I wouldn't say it was earth-shattering or anything like that, but it's a nice little kind of horror mystery. It's directed by a guy named John Eric Dowdle? I don't know. And it doesn't have any really big-name actors in it. So
most horror movies don't, though. Like,
yeah.
Like there are like a few like you have your like I think Ryan Reynolds that was in the Amityville remake.
Yeah.
Ethan Hawke was in
Sinister.
I knew it. I couldn't get it out of my head. Like, you get like big name actors like once in a blue moon.
Yeah, you get like one here and there. Like usually a horror movie I find will have at least kind of one.
They'll usually have one actor that you can at least recognize to kind of say, oh, hey, it's that guy from that thing that I like.
Yeah, throw him on the poster.
Right, exactly. But I think for the most part, most horror movies, not a lot of people really like to do them. They're not the complex thriller dramas. They're just like, nah, I could go without the schlockfest on my resume.
Yeah, and sometimes it's actually beneficial to not have the big name actor in it, because then you're just seeing them with their acting baggage play the role. Like, I remember seeing The Grudge, still a fairly spooky movie, scenes terrifying that stuck with me. But you had Sarah Michelle Gellar playing the main character, and the whole time you're just waiting for Buffy to bust out and just end it.
Yeah, that's very, very true.
So,
that's true.
But back to the movie. It's about a team of explorers that are looking for this thing called the Philosopher's Stone. Not the Harry Potter thing.
Not the Philosopher's Stone, just...
It's called the Philosopher's Stone.
Okay, just
it's not the Harry Potter Philosopher's Stone.
Different MacGuffin, same name.
Yeah. It's used by this kind of alchemist dude. So
it's like pretty close to the Harry Potter's Philosopher's Stone.
Well, I'm assuming a Philosopher's Stone is probably like one thing, but I don't remember Harry Potter very well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Just throwing that out there.
Oh, okay, fine. It's a Harry Potter movie. I watched Harry Potter. That's it. Anyways, so it takes place in Paris, as you mentioned with the poster there.
Mm-hmm.
They travel into the depths of Paris's catacombs to go looking for this stone that was used by this alchemist back in kind of like the Crusade times. So
like the Dark Ages.
Yeah. So there'll be some reference to like the Templars and stuff in the movie that you'll see. There's also kind of a lot of kind of nods at Dante's Inferno. So
don't they? And maybe I'm confusing this with another movie. Don't they walk under the sign leading into limbo from Dante's Inferno?
Mm-hmm.
Abandon all hope, ye who enter here, some damn thing like that. I forget what the quote is in the poem, but
yeah, that's pretty much it. You're correct. Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. Okay, yeah. Just want to make sure I was picturing like the right movie.
For a person who hasn't seen this movie, they know a lot about this movie.
I know like kind of like the general synopsis of it. I just haven't really had a chance to sit down and watch it, but I remember kind of like what you said, where it was out and then it disappeared, and then it just kind of popped up again. Same idea.
Yeah. So I find the story is not too bad. Like it's like you're guessing at a lot of it, so it's pretty. You can kind of figure out a lot of the plot, like kind of line there. But it's kind of good though because it moves along at a good pace. It doesn't bog you down with any kind of slow exposition or anything like that. They basically say we're looking for the MacGuffin. It's down in the hole.
Let's go to the hole.
Let's go to the hole. Let's get people that know the hole.
Yeah.
And then the people that get down there go, oh, we don't know this part of the hole. And then they find out the hole's hidden deeper. And then they don't really know where they're going. And all kinds of stuff happens.
Hey, see, I can go, when it comes to my horror movies, I can deal with a lot less exposition. Like, I really don't care that you and your wife are having issues. Rarely does it ever really, like, drive the plot forward. It's really just a subplot in a movie that I'm here to get scared. I'm not here to, like, Dr. Phil your issues away.
Mm-hmm.
You know? So I kind of like that idea.
And it was actually kind of cool because it's actually filmed in the catacombs, so it's not a set or anything like that.
Oh, wicked. I didn't know that. That's cool.
Yeah, so it's a kind of a neat little thing. I'm sure that was probably spooky for the actors actually being down there. And
oh, I bet that would freak me right out.
A lot of it's really dark, and you can't really see a lot going on because it's one of those found footage films. So you can't really see much above, like, a few feet in front of the actor or what's going on, and it's shaky and it's not great quality. Like, it's not necessarily focusing on everything. Mm-hmm. Once in a while, it will focus on something and you really wish it didn't. You're like, oh, blur it again. I don't want to see that. Got nightmares now.
Don't need to see the nightmare fuel.
Yeah. So, but because of that, with the whole thing with the found footage the whole thing with the found footage film, I can't talk again. Anyways, it's like kind of like Paranormal Activity and even Blair Witch. Like, part of the spookiness is you can't really see necessarily everything that's going on.
Yeah.
So you're hearing stuff, you're hearing the screaming, and you're getting like a kind of a view of a sideways wall because somebody dropped the camera, and you're just kind of hearing stuff going on. But so that's kind of cool. There's lots of jump scares. It's kind of like an adventure horror too. So it's kind of like, say, National Treasure meets Paranormal Activity.
Okay.
And yeah, pretty much as you can tell, it's kind of like their whole journey isn't just to go to this Philosopher's Stone. It's actually kind of what they don't realize until later in the movie. And this is no spoiler because they pretty much televise it the whole time, and it's out there. Is they're pretty much venturing into hell to get this stone. As they get closer to it, things are getting a little weirder. When they get the stone, shit goes sideways. And then they have to escape from hell. So
okay, cool. I saw it pop up somewhere on my radar. I can't remember if it's on Prime or if it's on Netflix. I might give it a watch. It was kind of like one of those movies I saw the preview for, and I was like, man, that kind of looks like a cool idea.
Yeah.
And I never actually had a chance to sit down and kind of watch things go sideways, as it were.
Yeah.
So I'll lead off my pick with probably one of my favorite sort of demonic, spiritual, hooly-gooly movies, and it's about as serious as I don't know, as a small cold, and that's Evil Dead 2. I picked Evil Dead 2 over the original Evil Dead, again, not the god-awful remake, but the original Evil Dead. The original Evil Dead is as cool as it is, and as big of a cult movie it is. You don't really need that one to enjoy Evil Dead 2.
No.
Evil Dead 2 was made in 87. Could be 86, so I'm just going to go with 87 on this one. It was directed by Sam Raimi, and it stars, quote-unquote, stars Bruce Campbell as the main character, Ash Williams. And they really kind of touch on... the first little bit of the movie is really just kind of a retelling of the first movie.
Yeah, I remember like the second one almost being like a mulligan of the first one.
Yeah, they kind of give you they kind of do like a quick flash forward. They came out here, shit hit the fan, and now it's just the two of them, and now we can get to like a better movie. It was almost like they made enough when it was like, hey, we could actually do something cool. Let's just kind of tickle the first one over here, acknowledge its existence, and then move forward and completely forget that the first one exists. It was made on a budget of $3.6 million and only made $5.9. However, it is like one of the bigger like cult horror movies that everybody knows. Everybody, whether or not you know Bruce Campbell, I can't see how you don't, particularly if you're listening to this podcast. But he's big chin, like he's in a lot of B movies. Like there's not a whole lot of A+ stuff. Although he was in the Spider-Man movies, he pops up in those quite a bit.
Yeah,
probably because Sam Raimi directed Spider-Man 1 and 2. Did he do 3? Well, I want to say no, only because I like Sam Raimi. But anyway, Bruce Campbell pops up in that, and it really is the gist of the cabin out in the woods, and part of our survival tips is something that we should probably touch on, and that is, just don't go around poking around a weird doctor's notes and start playing tapes that he has recorded. I just don't see how this is a good idea.
Yeah.
But the gist is, there was this doctor that was out in this cabin because when you're going to do demonic research, why not isolate yourself in the forest so the rest of us aren't bothered? I get that. I like that. Stand up, dude.
Yeah.
Anyway, he's studying the Necronomicon, which, regardless of what you read on the internet, is not a real book. Just, we can talk about that shortly. Anyway, Ash Williams, Bruce Campbell, decides he's going to play the tapes out loud because why not? And it ends up summoning a demon from out in the middle of the forest somewhere. And you would recognize the demon by, it's basically a camera at the end of a stick running through the forest.
Yep.
And, you see it break through windows, and you always see it like run up towards one of the characters as they yell and scream and clearly get possessed. So Ash Williams kind of unleashes this unholy terror, and his girlfriend ends up getting, let's just say, infected by this demon. Long or the short, it kind of turns into a weird body horror sort of thing because he's got to chop up his girlfriend as she's telling him off and telling him how much of a failure as a man he is. And in the end, this doctor that's gone missing, his daughter or granddaughter show up with all their friends. Ash has gone insane from the hauntings that he's been experiencing, and they decide the best thing to do is to throw him in the basement where the doctor had killed his wife and buried his wife. It's all these, like, you get these weird demonic bodies getting possessed, and their eyes are always the same. They like bug out of their heads. Mm-hmm. Skin tones always change. The phrase "I'm going to eat your soul" pops up I don't know how many times in those movies. But the whole idea is that it's the possession horror. It's you have like we were talking about, you could put a physical medium between you and Mike Myers, but in this one, there's no stopping it. You just become possessed. You've lost complete and utter control, and you're gonzo. Mm-hmm. It's a schlock fest. It's not particularly well acted. The effects are overly gory for the sake of gore. It just feeds into that, what you would expect to see in like a cult smash, silly movie. Mm-hmm. And it led to a third movie in the series called Army of Darkness, yep. Which is probably, I wouldn't say it's better than Evil Dead 2, but they kind of play the comedy a little bit more than in Evil Dead 2.
Yeah.
There's quite a bit of comedy in Evil Dead. Simply like one of the scenes when his hand gets possessed. I don't know why the demon can only possess his hand, but he has to cut his hand off, and then his hand is running around the cabin, and he's desperately trying to kill this hand that is just tormenting him all to hell.
Mm-hmm.
It's got its definite like dark humor laughs and all that sort of jazz. If you ever have the opportunity, I would strongly suggest watching it. It doesn't hold up well to time. The effects don't stand up, but I don't think that's why a lot of people like this movie. I mean, it adds to its charm.
Yeah. But
it really did create this whole entire like Evil Dead universe where we had Army of Darkness as a third movie, Ash versus the Evil Dead.
Yep.
I think they've had 3 seasons and they killed it. 2 of them I know for sure on Netflix.
Yeah.
If you ever wonder what happened to Xena Warrior Princess, she's in it. For some reason, she plays a demon that's trapped on Earth. But all in all, it's like a good, fun movie. It's spooky in there's a ghost that's haunting us and trying to get my soul, but it's also kind of lighthearted in well, I've cut off my hand, so I'm going to have to fashion a chainsaw to it and run around with my boomstick and my chainsaw. So
yeah,
it is a movie I would strongly recommend as almost a palate cleanser to Down Below As Above, or As Above Down Below, whatever the hell your movie was.
Side to side, whatever.
Yeah, either way. So anyway, like I said, it's spooky, but it's also got a good bit of comedy to it.
Yeah, no, I definitely recommend at least that one in the series.
Yeah, if you only saw one of the 3, that's definitely the one you want to go with.
Yeah, you didn't like the remake?
They tried to take a really campy, I'm not taking it serious horror movie, and then they tried to make it serious.
Yeah.
And I think for me, watching the remake of The Evil Dead, if I had never seen an Evil Dead movie, I would probably have enjoyed it.
Yeah, that's kind of like the mindset I had to kind of get into with.
You know, it's like the other day I was watching a Leslie Nielsen movie. I think we talked about this as well. It was like,
Prom Night.
It's hard to watch serious Leslie Nielsen when all I have is like Airplane and Naked Gun and everything firing off in the back of my mind. It's very, very distracting. I can't really get past that. Mm-hmm. So I think watching the remake of The Evil Dead, I saw it in theaters. It was spooky. It's creepy. But I was waiting for like something silly or something stupid to happen.
Yeah.
And that kind of ruined the mood for me anyway. And I like to allow myself to get scared in these things. I just couldn't for Evil Dead.
All right. No, that's a good one. I enjoyed that one. My next pick, it's kind of more of a recent one that everybody kind of enjoys. It's The Conjuring.
Oh, it's such a good movie, too.
It's actually really well done.
Yeah, I like The Conjuring.
Yeah. So The Conjuring came out in 2013. It was directed by James Wan. It's starring Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga. I can't pronounce names. I'm sorry. Not like she's listening to the podcast, but if she is, I'm very sorry.
And that's at Nerdium Podcast. You can write Matt directly and let him know your feelings about his inability to pronounce your name.
Yeah. Hey, if I get an email from her, I'm not going to be mad.
Hashtag Matt can't say your name.
Yeah, well, hashtag Carrie hates Halloween hasn't started trending yet. So.
Carrie does not hate Halloween.
Yeah.
That's a lie.
So anyways, they play Ed and Lorraine Warren, which are actually real-life people.
Mm-hmm.
The Warrens were real-life paranormal investigators that investigated all kinds of different things, and you'll recognize most of their files from the Warren files or whatever they call that stuff. But there's the Perron family, or Perron family. That's the one that's actually based on The Conjuring, so that's the Rhode Island one.
Yep.
Then they go to Amityville, and they do the investigation for the Amityville horror. Also a great movie. Like I enjoyed the original, and I actually enjoyed the remake.
I like the remake, but I still prefer the original.
Oh yeah, you gotta prefer the original, but I think the remake was able to kind of freshen it up a little bit. I think the original kind of got a little stale. It's still a classic, but the kind of made it I think it made it creepy again.
Yeah.
With the remake. And Ryan Reynolds, good actor.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, for sure.
Yeah, if you just ignore Green Lantern.
Yeah, I was going to say, just don't see the
Wolverine.
Green Lantern. You're good.
Anyways, so moving on. Then also they do the Enfield Poltergeist from London, which appeared in The Conjuring 2. And, yeah, they did, like, everything, too. Like, you'll see Annabelle pop up in The Conjuring. Annabelle gets her own little spin-off, I think 2 or 3 movies.
She got 2. She got Annabelle, and then she got Annabelle the Beginning, or whatever that movie's called.
Annabelle Strikes Back.
Dun, dun, dun.
I don't know. Anyways, so they also investigated that, too.
We don't drink on this podcast.
The Warrens, although they were involved with pretty much every kind of paranormal thing from like the 70s, they received a lot of criticisms. They still do to today, like for kind of trying to glorify people's suffering or trying to play up something that actually never happened.
Well, it's kind of weird because as our science and technology kind of improves, a lot of this stuff is kind of looked back and it's like, well, did you really? You know, like it's almost like watching like psychics or like mediums that can tell me that somebody in my family that has a name that starts with the letter B wants to tell me not to worry about my money. It's kind of like that aspect where people kind of look at that and we're like, hey man, just so you know, we think you're full of shit.
Mm-hmm.
I personally think it makes for great storytelling. The veracity of the claims, I don't know. I think it's up for debate for me anyway. But they still make for fantastic movies.
They do. So Conjuring actually received pretty high reviews for a horror movie. Horror movies, even though like they could be really well done, don't typically rate really high or do well in the box office or get great reviews just because it's an acquired taste. Like
you have to. One of two people go to horror movies, and that is the guy that wants to sit there and is totally not scared and just wants to show you that he's not scared and can't stop telling you that they're not scared. And then there's people very much like myself that want to go. They want to take off the cloak of reality for a little while and just kind of immerse yourself and feel that scare.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not a movie critic per se, so much as the idea of my job being to go to movies and look at them through a critical lens. I don't think like horror movies don't really lend themselves to the critical eye. It's a personal experience. Like if you want to go and get scared and let your skin crawl, you have to let reality fade away for a little bit. Like when the theater lights go down, you need to just stop the world around you and just immerse yourself in the environment. If not, then no, a horror movie isn't going to do it for you.
Mm-hmm. You have to kind of cut out all the distractions from around you.
Well, if you're going to go to a horror movie, you're going to sit there and like, well, that's bullshit, and that's not real, and that's not, well...
Yeah, exactly.
Go away. This movie's not for you.
Yeah, so you might kind of also see in the movie that it's kind of got this old school kind of psychological feel to it. Mm-hmm. Like, it doesn't, like, just throw kind of special effects right in your face, or here's a demon. It teases and hints.
Yeah, it really, we talked about it earlier with that little bit of like psychological warfare that the demon and the ghosts wage on you, and The Conjuring does it really, really well, like super duper well.
And that was actually intentional. Like Juan actually mirrored a lot of the 1970s kind of classics and took that kind of feel and put it into the cinematography and the atmosphere that he built up for The Conjuring. Yeah. So you can you get that kind of classical, almost horror feel to that movie. Nor does it reinvent the wheel or anything like that. It doesn't overdo special effects. And it does a really good job at just kind of bringing back the classics.
They got a lot of, from what I can remember, the special effects for The Conjuring, like the ghostly, hooly-gooly, spooky stuff, it's a lot of acting. It's not a lot of special effects. It's not a lot of CG. It's a lot of physical presence that it's there.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that lends so well to horror movies because whereas you could watch a horror movie, House on Haunted Hill or whatever, where the ghosts are all like the thing coming out of the ceiling is all CGI. It's just it's spooky and it does okay, but it's not the same as what The Conjuring does with physical effects.
Yeah, it kind of lends back to that thing where you can't see it, so your imagination's doing the legwork for them and creeping you out.
And I will say, as far as like horror franchises go, I do really enjoy the Conjuring universe.
They're doing a really good job with it, yeah.
Yeah, and what they've done with that. Like, I haven't seen The Nun yet. I'm dying to see The Nun, because after the last Conjuring, that was by far the most terrifying part of that movie.
Yeah, holy shit. Like, even the trailer for The Nun's, like, spooky.
Yeah, and I'm dying to see it. I didn't have, just time in life gets in the way, so I didn't have a chance to see it in theaters, and I like to see these big, scary movies in the theater. Mm-hmm. That was one that I unfortunately missed, but I'm dying for it to come out where I can get my hands on it and watch it.
Well, they have another one coming out that's in the Conjuring universe too, eh?
Do they?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what it's called.
Is it another, like, Warren Files movie, or is it just, like, another...
I don't think it's another Warren file necessarily, but I think it's directed... I don't know if it's even directed by James Wan. But it's produced by... No, it's not directed by James Wan, but it's produced by the same...
Oh, okay.
Same kind of company. But it's The Curse of La Llorona. And it looks kind of along the same lines as The Conjuring and The Nun.
Okay.
So I don't know if they're going outside of the box with it and they're going to kind of be able to capture the same thing that James Wan did.
I can see it kind of ending with, if we're going to go into how the curse originated and all the spooky stuff, I almost get the impression that it would end with the Warrens showing up.
Yeah.
At, the curse carrying on to somebody in modern time, being like the 1970s or whatever, and the Warrens being there at the very end, being called for somebody being haunted by whatever's going on there.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to finally getting to see The Nun. Hopefully I get to see it before too long. But
yeah, absolutely. All
right, so that's all I had for The Conjuring.
That's all you have? So, at the time that The Conjuring came out, there seemed to be 3 kind of horror franchises that all kicked off all at once. As far as I'm concerned, the best one of the franchises was The Conjuring. You had Sinister, which was not too bad, creepy, but only because children are creepy. So you had the Sinister movies, and then you had one of my most recent favorites, and that is the Insidious series.
Okay, yeah.
And I'm going to dial it right down because after the first movie, maybe the second, the series has kind of gone off in a direction that I don't think captures the essence of the original.
It's almost gone like Supernatural, like the TV series.
Yeah. I think they kind of lost track as to what they were doing. But the very first Insidious creeped me right the hell out. Maybe it was just the mood I was in. I just let myself go and just kind of let myself feel the fear for what it was worth. Just like The Conjuring, it's directed by James Wan, and it was made on a budget of $1.5 million, but made $97 million. So not a half a bad investment on that one. It kind of plays off on the typical movie trope of, oh, we're a happy family. Oh, we bought this new house. What could possibly go wrong? Gee, our son is so great, we really hope he doesn't get possessed by a demon. So it kind of does that sort of thing. Think like along the lines of Poltergeist, Amityville. It's that whole, we just moved into this brand new house and look at all of this. Mm-hmm.
Is Patrick Wilson in that one too?
Mighty fine question. I did not write down any of the actors' names because they were all kind of like obscure. I know I recognize the woman that played Elise from a couple of different things, but I didn't recognize any of the main actors.
Okay. Yeah, he's in that one too.
Okay, he plays the husband?
Yeah, the husband, yeah.
Mr. Lambert?
Yep.
So, as I said earlier, the impetus is they move into this new house, and of course everything is just hunky-dory. And of course the son ends up upstairs in the attic where all horrible things happen to children for some reason.
Yeah, that should be in the survival tips too.
Don't go to the attic. Keep your kids out of the attic. Yep. Like, even if you need to go to I know where my attic is. I've never seen it. I never stick my head in there because that's where all the bad stuff is. It's just a fact. So he goes up there and he's up on a ladder. He falls. He kind of bumps his head, and you hear this weird snapping, crackling, creaking sound. And the son ends up in a coma shortly thereafter. That's it. Just bam, coma. There you go. Surprise. And all of a sudden, weird things just start to happen around the house. Things are being seen. People are kind of hearing stuff in monitors. Just chaos. It's a slow burn. Things start to build up.
I remember the scenes with the baby monitors. And
right, yeah.
Bugs the hell out of me when I have my baby monitor near me.
At one point in time, when my son was just learning to vocalize, I of course had the baby monitor in front of me. I forgot I was doing something irrelevant, playing video games or whatever. I thought he was having nap time. He ended up growling into the monitor. And like a good father, I looked at his mother and went, I think he's looking for you. And I refused to get off the couch. Because I know better, because I've seen these movies. They're horror movies, but what they are
Sacrifice the wife.
He's if you don't come downstairs, I'm just leaving. So you better come down.
Yeah.
So of course things are going on. The mother-in-law gets called, like, I don't know what's wrong with your grandson. Come have a look at him. Experienced mother. And as she's kind of talking to her son and the boy's mother. She's recounting a weird dream she had where she was kind of walking through their house and they looked into the boy's room. And you see this iconic thing, I think you see it in the movie preview as well, where the shadow with just ridiculously long fingers, like just gross long fingers, is slowly like reaching up towards the boy in the bed. And then when she's done recounting the dream, all of a sudden she looks at her son and there is this weird red and black skinned demon behind her son that hisses at her. And it's a scene that creeps me out every time. Like, it just sends chills down my spine. Maybe it was just, like I said, maybe it was the mood that I was in when I saw the movie, but it just freaks me out. I watched it in the dark just to give myself a good scare, because why the hell not? I see how long I can get through before I have to turn it off. And of course, that's the main bad guy. Think of like Darth Maul without that many horns and a bad hair day.
Yeah.
Like if Darth Maul picked up a bad meth habit, you'd probably get the red demon from Insidious.
That's pretty good. Yeah, that's right? That's how I see it.
So anyway, they end up breaking down. They contact Elise, who is a demonologist and kind of like a medium.
Yep.
Kind of like, let's come on over to my house, not doctor, and diagnose my son. And it's funny, horror movies all kind of have different names for the afterlife. In this one, the other realm, the afterlife is the further.
Yeah, I remember that being kind of like one of the... I was like, the what? Sorry?
Yeah, it was really, really weird. I don't know how they came up with it. Being the pop culture junkies that we are, I mean, I've heard like the Outer Realm. I've heard the Veil.
Yeah, the mist, the fog, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, right. Like, there's all these like weird names for the afterlife, or the place before the afterlife, or limbo. Basically that. Anyway, the boy's father, it is found out later on that he himself had a little leechy demon attached to him growing up as a kid, and Elise had actually, for lack of a better word, exorcised the demon away from him. So he opts to go into the further to save his boy, because the longer the boy is in this coma, the better chance this demon has of taking over and possessing the boy full time. Sounds
like science.
It is so rooted in science. I felt a lot smarter when I walked into the theater. It's got the typical tropes. It gets to the other side, the mad chase, find the boy, the demon notices, run away, all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
In the end of the movie, of course, like all good horror movies, the boy is saved, tra-la-la, everything is right with the world, except Elise kind of notices there's something wrong with Dad. He goes to grab something, he's kind of got dirty hands, mucky nails, and she notices he's just looking at her weird. So, again, very scientific. She grabs her Polaroid camera and takes a picture. Looks at the picture, of course. She doesn't see Dad. What she sees is the demon that had been haunting him back when he was a boy. Mm-hmm. So going into the further, he didn't get back. The demon did. And that's kind of where the movie ends. The mom comes out, looks at her husband, notices that Elise has been choked to death on the sofa, because these things tend to happen. And then she sees the picture and realizes what's gone on.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this kind of led into the second movie, which kind of ties this movie up. And then we went, then they started doing the prequel game where all the movies after Insidious 2 now kind of take place in the before Insidious.
Yep.
And after the last one, it was Insidious, the
Skeleton Key?
It has something to do with keys. The demon's got keys on its fingers, razor sharp keys.
Mm-hmm.
And it delves into Elisa's childhood, being a medium as a child and stuff.
Yeah.
Not a bad universe, not a bad series of movies to watch. Not bad at all. Does Insidious do what Conjuring does? It definitely tries, but it doesn't even come close to, I'm hesitant to say quality, but I think you'll find a lot more with the Conjuring universe than you would with the Insidious series, although I highly recommend watching all the Insidious movies.
Yeah, I have. So I agree with you. It's a good suggestion.
Good creepy ones. I've seen all the other ones. Insidious, the original one, is the only one that I've actually sat down and watched multiple times just to give myself a good skin crawl. Right around this time of year, I like to
just get the heart rate up.
Yeah, right, exactly. Just give myself a good creep, go to bed and go, ooh, thank Christ that wasn't real, and move on with my world.
Right?
That's what
that
I
wasn't
keep
real,
telling myself,
right?
man. I'd like to sleep at some point in time, so we're just going to keep on going with the conversation.
All right, so we will be joining together in this last pick here, doing a little tandem free fall. Because
some horror movies are not meant to be watched alone.
Exactly. That's exactly why we did this. There are tons of movies out there that we could have kept going with, like the Poltergeist, great series.
Well, we did have that argument because we thought we were going to talk about Poltergeist, the original, but then we had a little lover's quarrel as to who was going to do it, so it didn't make the list today.
Nope. So we are tackling the original,
the number one demon movie ever made.
Mm-hmm. A lot of people might disagree, just based on the fact that it doesn't necessarily hold up graphically or kind of imagery-wise.
I think a lot of the makeup holds up really well to today.
It was on TV the other day, and I was watching it, and I was like, "Man, this movie held up," and my wife disagreed with me.
Was it the AMC? Did you watch it? Was it on AMC when you watched it?
No, it was on one of the older movie networks.
Oh, okay, good. Then you saw the not cut and made nice for TV version.
Yeah.
No, I think I have to strongly disagree with her. I think it held up pretty good. It's got the weird 70s, 80s, stupid horror movie music that comes along with the synthesizer, but
shag carpets and all that.
Yeah, but of course the costumes are going to be off, but I think the actual things like effects and storytelling, I think it's held up quite well.
Yeah, I remember when I was a kid, it was grade 5 or 6 or something like that. I remember being home alone. My parents went off and did something, and for some reason I thought, you know what? I'm a big boy now. I'm going to pop in The Exorcist and watch that for the first time.
I was going to say, did we even say which movie we were going to review?
Did we?
So we're talking about The Exorcist.
Pretty sure we did. Anyways, yeah, so we're talking The Exorcist. And yeah, so
how old were you? But
it was grade 5 or 6, so...
Okay, so 11,
12-ish, yeah. Yeah.
So, my responsible family let me watch that when I was 7.
Uh-huh.
And how was your experience at the ripe old age of 11 or 12, being a big boy watching big people movies?
You know what? I wasn't necessarily scared, but I enjoyed it for what it was. I thought it was a really good watch. Yeah. And I can appreciate how people, even being 12, being man, this must have scared the shit out of people back in the 70s.
I didn't, so by the time I'd watched The Exorcist, my mother, of course, showed me Child's Play when I was 4, which just traumatized me. But my dad always had this thing. I used to like watching scary movies. I used to love watching the big anthology movies like Creepshow, Cat's Eye. The ones where it's 5 or 6 scary stories within an overall arcing story of the movie.
Yep.
And it was always like, oh, it's always make-believe. Don't forget it's make-believe, blah, blah, blah. So when I saw The Exorcist at 7, I'd already watched a plethora of horror movies. Poltergeist being like the first and best one I'd ever seen.
Yeah, I jumped on Poltergeist when I was really young.
Yeah,
so.
same here. And so it didn't really scare me. But I remember my nan and my boompa kind of explaining, like, this is kind of like this is a serious horror movie. Are you sure you want to watch it? I'm like, yeah, I want to watch it. Like, no, this is some serious stuff.
Yeah. And
I'm like, okay, this serious stuff. Yeah, it was pretty some serious bloody stuff.
Yeah.
But I have to say, I think it creeps me out more now as an adult than it ever did when I was a kid.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think so. When I watched it when I was 7, I'm like, man, that's freaky. But I don't think I really grasped what was being portrayed on screen.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what I saw was a girl that was like, looked like a monster that did bad stuff. I didn't understand possession. I didn't understand demons or the devil. That talk never ever happened in my house to begin with anyway. Like, it was just not a thing. So to me, it was just a monster movie, and I moved on with it. As I got older, understanding like the themes and what was going on, yeah, that kind of creeped me out a little bit more as an adult.
Yeah, fair enough.
Mm-hmm.
So, as everybody knows, or should know by now, The Exorcist is a movie based on the demonic possession of a teenage girl, and it's based on a novel by the same name by a guy named William Peter Blatty. So,
we don't drink on this podcast.
Must be ghosts. But yeah, so one of the things I find fascinating with The Exorcist is there's almost so much like history and lore just based around the making of the movie.
So one of the things that kind of comes up. One of the things that pops up when you talk about The Exorcist, or if you go into it online as to like the history of it, they talk about the curse of The Exorcist. That from start to finish, and even afterwards, it was just plagued with really weird, creepy things. Like, things just happened for no particular reason. Ooh. But one of the things, but there are some like real things that happen that are just, I think if this had happened on any other movie, a lot of people would be just like, yeah, man, shit happens. What the shit? Because of the nature of the story, because of what it deals with, and because of just some of the things that you see on the screen, it has a lot more baggage associated with it.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the first things that pops up, the set that they were filming. So Reagan is the girl's name, Linda Blair.
Yep.
So the Reagan's house that you see them in the original set, it burnt down to the ground, like shortly after it started, and it was attributed to a bird that flew into the electrical box.
Yep.
You know those electrical boxes that you just keep on the outside of your house?
Mm-hmm.
So it burnt down. Jack McGowan and Vasilic, something or other I can't even name, they both die in the movie, and then shortly after the movie, they both died.
Yeah.
Linda Blair and Max von Sydow, they lost family members shortly after the filming.
Mm-hmm.
The mom, who the woman Ellen, can't remember, Berstoya, something like that, who plays the mom, she was like injured really, really badly on set. She kept falling, tripping over the place. Like, myself personally, that just seems like it was the 70s. We didn't exactly cover up cords that were all over the floors. So.
Also, she's probably loaded the entire time of filming. So.
Yeah, exactly, right. But I mean, she was seriously hurt, but constantly falling on set was how it was described.
Mm-hmm.
But then it came time to release the movie out to the general public, and then just, of course, terrify the masses.
Oh, yeah.
And one of the weird things that happened during the preview in Rome, all of the Vatican and all that jazz, in Rome, the night of the opening, it was just a huge downpour, massive storm, just out of the blue. And rumor has it, and I say rumor because I couldn't really find a source that would like verify this. It's all just like, oh, somebody said this happened, so take it with a grain of salt. The church across the street from the theater got smashed by lightning.
Huh.
Weird, but again, churches get hit by lightning and thunderstorms. they have a giant lightning rod in the shape of a T on the top of the steeple. It's gonna happen. And then Billy, come on upstage in your wheelchair. I can smack you on the head and you can walk again. Graham, he had basically gone out and just said, listen, the very celluloid of that movie is cursed by the devil. Basically telling people to stay away from the movie. I don't think it worked because in total, that movie on a $12 million budget made $441 million.
Mm-hmm. It was Warner Brothers' highest grossing film after inflation. So
yeah, absolutely. So, take that for what it's worth.
Yeah. So yeah, like it was only kind of like one of the first of its kind, like for being regarded as one of the scariest movies of its time. Like you said, like some weird stuff happened, and also like it almost seems like a lot of the classics back then, like weird stuff happened around the filming of movies. Like even with Poltergeist, like
the Poltergeist had stuff going on. Amityville Horror had stuff going on.
Yeah,
it seems like some of these stories that were quote unquote based off of true stuff or really, really delved into like the paranormal and the spooky. A lot of bad stuff happened.
Yeah,
but I think like bad stuff happens on movie sets. I've worked on movie sets before. Stuff happens.
Yeah. But, like, with Poltergeist, though, the young girl from Poltergeist dies.
Yeah, that's true. That is very, very true.
And just a kind of random illness. Anyways, back to the movie we were talking about, The Exorcist. It was so scary that they actually handed out vomit bags to the audiences going to the theaters.
And they had ambulances on standby outside of the theaters.
Mm-hmm.
And there were reports of people, like, passing out in the aisles, like, trying to escape.
Yeah.
No, bear in mind, like a lot of the imagery in the movie, up until we just talked about the nun, and we want to go see the nun, and it's a demonic nun, boogity boogity. That's fine nowadays.
Yeah, like I said, it was kind of the first of its kind. So
back then you didn't see the devil puking all over the priest. You didn't have somebody literally just saying the most vulgar things on screen.
Yeah.
Like it just was unheard of. It was never seen before, and I imagine the shock value probably drove home, especially to the hyper religious.
Yeah, Linda Blair like says some things in that movie even today where I'm like, oh my.
No, she says things that even I wouldn't say. It is, but I mean, but even then, you on top of that, just the vault. I want to say vulgarity, but I mean, it's done in a manner that leads to this. It's not vulgarity for the sake of vulgarity.
Yeah.
It is something that I'm going to say, for lack of a better term, it plays well to the movie. Like it
lends to what's going on at the time. So
like we watch a lot of movies, not even just horror movies, but like action movies, drama movies, where it's just like violence for the sake of violence, or dropping the F-bomb for the sake of dropping the F-bomb.
Mm-hmm.
This it was deliberate. It was intended, but it plays well with it. It belongs there. I think is the best way to put it.
Yeah, I really recommend seeing maybe some of the documentaries about the making of it, because when they do some of the interviews with some of the actors, they say that a lot of the scenes they weren't even required to act because they didn't necessarily know what was going on or to the extent of what was going to happen.
It was mostly just reaction shots.
A lot of it, was reactions. Like they were genuinely like horrified or surprised.
So back in the late 90s, early 2000s, I can't remember, they had re-released The Exorcist in theaters with a bunch of extra footage they cut from the original movie.
Mm-hmm.
One point in time in the movie, when stuff has already started, Linda Blair's character Reagan, she's been put upstairs by her mom to go to bed, like parents did in the 1970s, and she's hosting like a dinner party downstairs.
Yep.
But Reagan, you have to go to bed. So she comes downstairs, she pees all over the carpet, fine. Shortly after the party, Reagan comes downstairs. I can't remember how long into the movie it is, but she does the like spider crab walk down the stairs.
Yeah, like backwards.
Holy hell! I just about shat myself right in the middle of the theater.
And it's quick too.
It made me like recoil in my chair. I was not ready for that scene.
No, it's kind of an unnatural movement that some movies have actually tried to kind of recapture.
Wasn't the Exorcism of Emily Rose? The Last Exorcism, maybe? You know the one I'm talking about.
The last the Exorcism of Emily Rose, they did some sort of stuff like that.
Yeah, the main actress in there, she was a contortionist, and she could do some.
Yeah.
She could do some stuff that just.
Yeah.
But that scene, if you have an opportunity, like watch like an updated Blu-ray or whatever with that scene, it is just it doesn't settle well in my stomach.
Yep. And so, The Exorcist spawned a couple of different sequels. I would say like some of the sequels that came after, like immediately after, I didn't find them as scary. Like they started trying to over-explain the phenomenon that was happening to Reagan.
Well, the first movie, she's possessed by the devil.
Mm-hmm.
Not a devil, she's possessed by capital T, the devil. And, of course, it's not Bartholomew, I forget what his name is. At the end of the movie, he takes he takes the devil into himself, and he throws himself out the window and kills himself.
Yeah, it's Father Karras or something.
Yeah, I forget what his name is. When the devil is torturing him and speaking like his mother, she calls him Benny, but that's not his last name. But she's going on about it. The sequels to the movie didn't hit the same notes they wanted to. I think they were trying to ride that wave that the first movie had started.
I didn't actually mind the prequel to it though.
No, the prequel was pretty cool. Like the prequel was like a good like origin story as to how they unearthed everything and what was going on there. But nothing in the whole entire series, up and including the TV show that's based off of the movie. It's not. It never. They're good movies. They're okay movies. But if you're gonna watch the horror movie, The Exorcist is the one that you would watch.
Yeah, I was actually excited when they came out with the TV series. It was kind of the first season wasn't too bad.
Yeah, I watched the first season. I got into it. I enjoyed it. But I
second season kind of.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of one of those things where you said the riding the wave just kind of hits shore and then just dies.
Yeah. Also, they kind of had to have a better idea of knowing where they wanted to go with it. It seems like they kind of second season hit and they kind of started going slightly a different direction with it.
Well, they had to. There was only so much story that they could tell with the first season.
Yeah.
Eventually, you have to open it up, and if you don't have the wherewithal to have somewhere else to go, then you're gonna hit the ground pretty hard.
Yeah. And of course, the original book was actually based on the true story of the exorcisms of a 14-year-old boy named Roland Doe that took place in the 1940s, and that book drew elements from the event to make The Exorcist. So. Yeah,
it was. I think when you talk about like horror movies, some of the most iconic scenes are in The Exorcist.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you watch AMC for like Fear Fest, of which I love every year because hashtag Carrie hates Halloween is not a real thing. But
you said it.
But you always get a picture of Reagan like full on like devil face. Like you can't talk about Halloween movies without having The Exorcist in there. It is the top of my list anyway.
Oh yeah, like I love AMC Fear Fest. Basically, because you get the Halloween marathons, you get the Friday the 13th, you get all the classics. That's primarily what they lean on. So
the only downfall with the AMC Fear Fest is with any AMC movie is that it is censored and chopped up beyond belief.
Yeah,
probably for good reason, but I mean,
it seems like it's not as bad as it used to be. It seems like with the Walking Dead kind of pushed the envelope with what they could start showing.
I think. I mean, if AMC was to take the approach where after like 9 o'clock, we were going to start to get real with the movies.
Yeah.
Like watching Goodfellas or Casino on AMC is a painful endeavor on a good day.
It's like a 30-minute movie on AMC.
Yeah, exactly. But Fear Fest does a good job. And The Exorcist wasn't too bad.
Mm-hmm.
A couple of real pivotal and, let's say raunchy for lack of a better scenes of the movies were cut for probably good reason.
Yeah.
But, like I said before, if you have the opportunity to get your hands on like a good copy of The Exorcist, like invest some time, turn the lights down, light a couple of candles in the background so you don't fall over anything in the room, and watch The Exorcist because it's a good creepy movie to watch.
Yeah, like after seeing it, like the intro to the movie still like every time I'm like sitting down to watch it, still gets me, like, because it does like that dramatic kind of like, dun.
Yeah, it's got a real, it jumps out at you. It's not big on like the jump scares. The jump scares they try to do aren't real jump scares, but they hit like jump scares. You know what I mean? Like when she's in the room screaming and shouting, and the mother and the priest come walking in, and then she turns around and she's just all like hamburger face. It's a jump scare, but it's not built up the way that, let's say, Insidious does a jump scare.
Yeah.
You know, it's a different experience. It's a really surreal experience.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just one of those movies that just, you gotta watch at least once just to really experience what it really is. Like it's horror done exceptionally well.
Yeah.
And on a funny side note, shortly after showing my sister The Exorcist, like the responsible brother I was as a kid, I think she was 7 or 8 too. You know, I'm not going to confess to anything. My parents don't listen to this show. One day she was going to bed, and I said I was going to go to my room to play. So I closed my room door, but I had hid under her bed. And of course, she crawled into bed. Of course, you know, I waited 5-10 minutes for an eternity, and then just started to push the bed up and down and rock it back and forth. And this was like a day after The Exorcist. I was grounded for a month and punished severely for that. But by far one of the best pranks I have ever done.
Yeah, that's pretty good. All right, so that's going to wrap up our episode of Volume 3.
Spooky Ghosts and Demons. And I think the problem with the spooky ghost and spooky demon thing is that trying to narrow it down to just like 2 or 3 movies that we really, really like, it's damn near impossible.
Well, even for when narrowing it down to the 3 movies we did,
yeah,
we still this is a long episode. So
yeah, I know. Like I would have loved to have spent some time on movies like the Amityville Horror and that series, the Poltergeist series. Like there's so many really, really good ones, especially from like the 70s and 80s. Like I know we said this in like the slasher genre, like that was like the stride.
Mm-hmm.
But it seems like the 70s and 80s just made some really solid horror movies, man. I don't know why now it's so hard to make a good one. Maybe it's just, you know, like we talked about before, just the nostalgia glasses that we wear. But god damn if they're just not fantastic movies from that era.
Oh, well, we still have 365 days of the year, so we could talk about it later on.
Oh, sounds good.
All right. So, if you have a favorite ghost or demon movie that you want somebody to know about, hit us up on our Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and let us know. I'm always down to check out something new, too. So
yeah, absolutely. If there's something that we really, really missed, or if there's some sort of weird or obscure movie that you don't think that we've either given a fair shake to, or maybe we've glossed over, like, there are movies out there that I haven't really spent a lot of time with yet that if you can think of any, by all means, shoot us a line and we'll have a sit down and watch it, and we'll spend some time sitting down and talk about it as to whether or not you were right or wrong about your decision to send that our way.
Until next time, guys.
Have fun.